we record this. Okay, so the way I'm proposing to vote is we use Slack for voting. So it's also a little bit more anonymous as we are recording that, and yeah, okay. So, but it's fair. That ever is everybody okay with that process? Okay. Thing is, if you're not okay, you've got to come with your own solution. So that's the annoying thing. So okay, so let's go through them. Okay, so let's start with servers. Simon has submitted this. Simon, do you want to talk a little about it, or do you want me to talk about it? Up to you.
The number one, you mean?
Yes, yes.
Yes,
Oh, I'm not.
I can.
Oh, sorry, I'm not sharing my screen.
No, that's yeah.
Your screen.
I was. I can have a quick talk.
Here. So here.
So we're not finished yet, but the idea is basically add information about how to access the data in a separate section. And that can be that the model you've described in the, now it's currently noted as a data set. So the data set that you've described, you could access in different ways, maybe on files, on S3, or tables on Snowflake, whatever. And that way, and you could also access them in different environments, maybe QA, maybe prod, maybe dev. So, and that we wanted to cover. But similar to what the servers are in OpenAPI. And when you scroll down a little bit, just showing this, you get the gist of it. So we have the type, meaning what technology is this available on, and then some type specific properties. For example, for type BigQuery, we need a project and a data set, and then we can find it. Can find the data, some description on what's there, whether it's called usage or description. It's not completely finalized. And also the rows was not completely sure.
Yeah.
But in the end, I think I would like to have this in the version 3. And I don't think it's actually can even have it earlier because it's not a breaking change. It's an addition.
I had a question on that. So I would assume that this replaces the physical access properties that are there today, right? We currently have driver version, server, database. So a couple of properties that seem overlapping with the servers you're proposing.
Oh yeah, we have like username and password, for instance, which are top level properties. And I think we could in that RFC, we could also deprecate them or remove them. Yeah. So okay, so it's maybe not a totally non-breaking change. Thanks for pointing that out.
Well, we could if you feel like you're so let's okay, let's vote on it first, okay? And then we can continue a little bit of discussion about it. Okay, so I hope you're all in the Slack. Johan is in the Slack. He shares the URL. So here, as I said, it's +1 for voting for it, -1 if you're against, or if you abstain, it's 0. Okay, fairly easy. That's how the Apache Foundation is working for their project. So myself, I'm +1, and Andrew is +1.
Against this +1 means we want servers in. We still need to work on it, right? But we want servers
Correct.
to be part of version 3.
We are in favor, of course. Dirk, you've got to change the rules, right?
+1 emoji. You mean really, literally +1, right?
No, so yes, all of them are still in the status of request for comments. Okay, but we want to make sure that we are going to work on that and target completion for version 3. Okay, but none of them. This one is pretty mature already, but the other ones are. Some are less mature. So yeah. Okay, that works.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think maybe to add to that, I think we need another vote maybe next time whether we really include it in version 3. So it's basically now it's finalized. Do we accept it, right? So this is the scope voting.
Yes. Yes.
And we need a second vote later on, maybe next meeting or the after. I don't know.
Okay, so you're totally right. In my ambition is that by our next meeting, sometimes in May, okay, we will have a draft of version 3 based on that. Okay, that would be my ambition. And then based on the draft of version 3, we will vote, and we will take time to finish a draft and vote that, okay, this vote on the draft to become that. And then we still have the option to reject some of the parts we didn't like. Okay. But this is a first filter in a way. No? Okay, so Martin, welcome back. We are just voting for the first one. We have to keep votes a little bit anonymous because we're recording the session, and all we vote is a little bit more, I would say, more confidential. We keep the votes in Slack. Okay, so in the ODCS steering committee Slack. So that's where we've been voting, and I think we are done with number 1. Okay. And Simon, as you suggested, if you want to push it forward and make a 2.3, I think it's doable. Okay, even if there is even if there's a little overlap, like a connection and things like that, it can be a new feature of a 2.3 and then go into 3 as well. Up to you. Okay.
Yeah, okay. I will think about it. I will create a channel where we can finalize the discussion around RFC1 and then yeah, I will champion it to get it finished.
Okay. 002. This one has been championed by Manuel, and it's about all the types. Manuel, you want to talk a little bit about it?
Yes. Okay, so we just discussed with Peter, and we came to the conclusion that we would need to have both types, actually, the logical and physical types, and to use to be more consistent with what's already existing, using for the logical type something like the OpenAPI types, and after for the physical types something that is more how the data is stored in the database, for example, if it's another kind of sequential files, for example, a coming from a COBOL, the type, the physical type, how the data we stored or generated. So this way we could use something that is easy to understand from most of the people, because OpenAPI types are pretty much standard now, actually.
I think Peter, you started to do a pretty good job there.
Yeah.
It needs, of course, like everything, it needs to be finalized.
Yeah.
You guys ready to vote
Yeah,
for that?
I guess that would be ready for release 2, of course.
Questions from anyone or ready to vote? Okay, let's vote. No blood yet. It's not even okay. Okay. Version, let's go to the next one. It was RFC 3. Okay. replacing stakeholders with product team structure. So yeah, so I think the idea is to really very simple is to just change stakeholder. We don't have a champion for this one. I think Simone, you brought it up first, right? But
Yeah, I can champion it. I have no problem with that.
okay.
I triggered the initial discussion. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Johan, you were faster than me. I just wanted to make a marker between. Any question? I know I'm not creating a pull request. I'm a savage. Any any questions, comments, anything? We're not getting rid of it, okay? That was some people were afraid of that. So hey Peter, so Peter, we're voting in Slack, okay? So if you want to join us voting in Slack,
Yeah.
and so yeah, so I don't know. Any questions? Okay.
I think it addresses a valid concern. There are different options what to do, and I think we should address it. And yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I yeah, okay.
I wasn't there in the latest iteration where the working group worked on it. So, but I tried to pick it up.
I think we worked a little bit on with that with Alpesh because he's got something similar he was working on and yeah, so I think it still passes according to the votes, but well, yeah, we'll see. It's not overwhelming joy as the other ones. Okay,
No.
so we'll see. Okay, let's go for four.
Maybe I would be curious to know when you don't have to voice it publicly if you want to keep it private, but I would like to know, would be curious the reasoning for a -1.
Well, since that's me,
No, it's I think but I think that
no, I got no
everybody who
problem
let me
stating why. I think stakeholders is fine. I think as it is actually pretty much in line with what's needed in a data contract. I don't. I haven't seen a compelling that I don't think that the concept that was in the RFC was I haven't seen it as a compelling addition for 3.0. I mean, if all it is going to be just the semantic change to name stakeholders to product team, well, then I don't care too much. But I thought that I didn't see a lot of other real improvement there. So
Yeah, it's for me. I'm even if I didn't do a -1, but a 0, I'm really like the thing is why change something that works, in a way, and if it's just because the term is not the most pleasant or the most understanding. It's also not a misleading term. So that's but I think we can spend maybe like 20 minutes next time on a working group on it or something, and then we'll get through it. So I don't think it's a big deal, but
Okay. Yeah, thanks for the insights. I didn't want to I think it's just a general good way to say why someone is against it, to give the feedback.
We
That's
did
what
say that you have to be able to defend your why you're against it. So
yeah.
we did put
Because
that.
I thought at some
Right.
point we decided, I thought in a TSC meeting that when you are voting against, you have to comment on that. But I'm not sure. I don't have any protocols somewhere where I can.
we're
No,
just
you're
we're making
correct
it
about
as
that.
we go.
And I voted against, and basically my vote is that I don't see what we have in the RFC yet as an improvement enough to warrant being a priority for roadmap. So if, and Alpash had been working on this. So if he comes up with something that is, I see no problem with including it. I'm not against its inclusion if there is an improvement. It's as it stands right now, I don't see any reason that it merits being roadmap. It's the rest of the items on the list here are all pretty big ticket. This is pretty minor, and it's not mature enough to say yeah for certain from my perspective.
Yeah, it's totally fine. Thank you. So I'm not. I will champion it, and I will try to include you, Todd, to give feedback before. So maybe when we change it, or and I'm working on it, whether it improves your picture on it. Is that fine?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, let's go to 4. Okay, I cannot poke or tease Andrew because he's not here really, but he changed the champion from Andrew to me. So I've got to change that. I should have rejected his pull request, but basically the idea here on 4, and that was also brought. I think Simone, you were involved with that, and Andrew as well, because it was very table centric as a way we were describing things, and now we are trying to get an abstraction for that. So there's multiple motivations there, and for example, there's also the idea of having a stronger separation between a business logic or a business description, a logical description of the data versus a physical description of the data. So we're looking at something like option D there, which is genericity with hierarchy. So you can look at the different examples. As basic as this example, you've got basically what you had before. Okay. Um, don't settle too much on the terms, because we probably will not keep kind. We might change that to type or physical type. But basically a full example like that would say, like, okay, I've got an object which is a table called transaction. It has attributes which are fields, and one is a field called identifier, and another one is an object called transaction details, and you can build your hierarchy this way. Okay, so it's not, as all the RFCs here, it's not finished, but that's the one we're looking at in this for this evolution. This is a major one, and this is going to be. It's also dependent on types. Okay, so guys, on the type on RFC2, we will have to finish 2 before we can finalize 4. We can still work on 4, but and And that, so I don't know. Anyone has questions? I'm talking too much.
I have a brief question before we get to this one that's a little bit separate regarding voting. So we've got the abstain option now that I don't think we considered when we talked about having your votes and being able to defend them. And this one, just based on the working groups, has been there have been a lot of different ideas. And there's been some we've gotten to some rough consensus, but there's a lot of places where we don't have consensus. We said for voting on this that you have to have a majority. So allowing for abstentions, you still have to have, for something to be approved, we're still saying you have to have a majority assertive votes, right? Like you
Yeah,
can't pass
when
with
you
3 votes and
when you
vote
abstain is
for-
like when you're not part of the quorum, yeah, you know. So for number three, for example, we are at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 votes for all of us also, and we were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure I agree. Like we're getting to, like, we're gonna have a quorum on all these where it has to be a majority of the TSC has to have assertively voted for something to be accepted, right?
For me, and the way it works for the in the Apache group, when you vote like that, it's if it's positive, if the total number of votes, like for three, for example, if you've got Slack in front of you, it's +5, so it's +5, so that's why it passes.
Okay, so if it's +5 and there's only one minus and everybody abstains, because I thought we said that there had to be a quorum. I thought we said that before. So that they're, because on this one, it's contentious enough that I think if there are people who've said, well, I'm not in, I'm not as aware of it and they don't want to vote against it. My my concern is this is a really big one. And I want to make sure we get it right and that it's clear and obvious to everybody on the TSC that we got it right. I don't want it to like go to a vote and like when we're actually looking at the RFC, a couple weeks from now. I want to make sure that that's the expectation.
I'm a little bit confused now. So
So I want to make sure that when we vote, that if we only had like 4 or 5 people vote and say, okay, well, we voted +1 and everybody else abstained,
yeah,
that it wouldn't pass.
well, maybe we should not have the zeros then, but the I this number 4 is kind of the big
I'm
one.
going to vote for inclusion. I raised a separate question and I said I wanted to raise a separate question before we brought this up. Because it is a big ticket item and I want to make sure that we're not going to have something this big vote without everybody positively wanting it when we get to the complete RFC.
I think this one is a little less controversial, but maybe we should vote on the we'll see. But it's true that if it's only just a +1 out of all of us, it means that it's going to be not as embraced, and you want to measure the embracement in a way of that, right? Is that how I understand it, Todd? Because it's
I think it's a question of votes in any circumstance. I think I thought we said we were going to want a quorum in every case, and that I don't remember that. I just wanted to confirm that that's what we said.
Well, for me, the quorum was just the number of presents, of people present. We are the majority of the TSC being there, and we are there. So
So it's the denominator on a vote, the number of voters, even if
even if
those
it's
votes were zeros.
yeah.
So are zeros and minus ones equivalent? Just you don't have to say why, which is sort of a violation of what we said before.
But we said -1 to justify, but we,
Okay.
as I said earlier, we're making rules as we go. It's the first time we're having a formal vote on something as well. So if you guys want to change the rule, let's change the rule or clarify the rule for the next time. But honestly, I think on this one, as I see the votes, that's actually one of the goals. Okay, so that's why Andrew brought it up, and we have a lot of people. But it's also, for example, Gene in our group here is the only one working, among us, working in completely unstructured documents. Right. The thing is a guru in FileNet and all these document stores. So that's for us a very precious asset as well. So that's why also I think his opinion and his contribution are really valuable there. All right. Well, I think that's a strong message that if I see the results of the votes, we want to change this thing. Okay. And this might be also setting up the timeline as a roadmap. So the thing is, there's so much pressure on us to make RFC4 going out and going out correctly, that this might be the things that is, the red path on a Microsoft project thing. Okay, we need to get this thing done. We cannot be, I think we cannot release version 3 without this guy. Okay. 5. Five is an easy one. It's almost finished. But we might alter a little bit 5. So 5 is really, Simon, you want to take it?
I can. The idea is that we have some Google Cloud Platform specific fields based on the history of the ODCS, which is coming from PayPal as a contribution, as an open source contribution, and PayPal used GCP extensively. And we want to get, so the idea is basically, so one idea is to get rid of that and say we are open not just for Google Cloud, but for any platform. And here we had a name collision because dataset was also a thing in a conceptual way in the data contract, but the field was, in this case, it was meant to be Google Cloud Platform specific because there's a data set entity in the Google Cloud in a BigQuery. So it's what term they use for their platform. And it's not just a general term. It's a very specific platform term. And the idea was basically to say, okay, get rid of it and say if you can use it as a custom field. And if you want to support it with tooling, we support it via a migration tool. And other alternative was to rename it, to namespace it. But I think the consensus was more towards moving it to an extension or to a custom field.
I think that also by extension, we might have a few other fields that go there. Okay, following the same principle. We didn't go through all the details there. So we might have a few others that go there. But the idea is following our guidelines is to keep us completely abstract from as much as possible.
So perhaps we can change the scope of this RFC to remove all GCP or proprietary references.
Yeah.
If there are others, I don't know them by heart, but might be good to do a scan and get rid of all of them at once.
And those are implementation specific.
So feel free if you see something, say something. Huh? Just add some field in there if you see. Okay, this is implementation specific. You found that.
Yeah, I just modified live, but the thing is, does anyone wants to change his vote based on that? But it's basically the same idea, anyways. Okay.
And to me, maybe to motivate this even more, to me, this is one of the major steps to say now we have a version 3. Because we say we drop some legacy stuff and we are now independent. And already this is a nice story to release a major version. It's now for everybody.
Let's not get too excited about removing one field, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let's go to 6. 6, support. Okay, so this was in this, it's a very similar in a way that what we were just talking about. I don't have the existing one, I think, here, but basically the idea is that the way to connect people for the support within the data contract was very specific to the way that PayPal was working. Distribution list, Slack, and so the idea is to be a little bit more open. For example, some of us are using Teams, some of us are using Slack, some are banning emails, etc. Okay, so the thing is that was a little bit the idea or here of changing that and making it a little bit more open for support and having multiple channels. So something I would say something fairly easy yeah, I don't know. Anyone's questions? Seems pretty obvious, self-explanatory. Are we going to squeeze Johan like we tortured Todd?
We've already covered that I'm very argumentative, so it doesn't bother me that much.
Okay. Any reason why you're neutral about that, guys?
I haven't thought about it. I haven't seen it yet, to be honest. So this is the
Okay.
first time I'm seeing it, and I don't have an opinion as quickly as seeing it and then voting on it. I don't think.
Yeah, maybe here, if I look at it and I'm thinking of how most data contracts will look like, you probably only have one email address or something. And since the structure might be a little bit deep and complex for just saying, hey, here's my contact email. But I do like the idea of removing the very specific top level elements that are paper specific.
Yeah. So there might be we can discuss different option as well. Okay, so we could yeah, but okay. Anyway, okay, we're crunking them, but we're still yeah. Okay, so we have data quality. Okay, so data so the idea is to get that's also some things that we were super tied to how PayPal was doing things. And by discussing with also various users, there's basically different needs. So this is not options, this is really different example of usage. So for example, there's calling a rule directly. And once more, don't look too much about code or whatever. We could call it rule or whatever. But basically, you can directly call a rule. You can have named parameters to a rule. So you can have values in a list. You know, you can have various things. We as a group will not provide a list of those rules. Let's say that's a business opportunity for a partner like Soda, for example, or for uh, any others that wants to be part of that. And you can also have direct SQL statement and that if you want. And I think Johan, that's you added this little part at the end, right? Which I think is a great addition. Maybe we can change it a little bit or whatever. But the thing is, it's um I think it's good or having variation on that. Still same thing. We need to work on that a little bit, but we have a very abstract way of doing it and a very physical way of doing it as well. So it leaves a lot of opportunity for our different customers. Okay. The suspense is killing me. What is Dirk going to vote for?
Well, the question here, remember, is just, it's not whether or not we think that this is right, it's do we think that this needs to get done for roadmap? So before we do 3.0, right?
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. So thanks for clarifying, guys, your zeros. And I'm happy to we have the working group, and if you can't join the working group, I'm always also available for a one-to-one discussion on the different topics. So just you probably will have my Calendly, so feel free to book me as well. Okay. So this one is not super described yet. The idea is that we have versions at the data contract level, but if we want to be able to track changes at the field level, and that's a need that obviously one of the champion is having, we would like to be able to track changes at the field level. There's no example yet. It's still early, we don't know yet how we're going to do it. What we know is we would like to have it. Okay. So yeah, so it's one of those which are a little bit on the early stage.
Is it an assumption that one can change fields without changing the data contract version?
No, if you change a field, the data contract will change. But but you know, to be honest, because the thing is, this is how the company wants to do it. I would change if you change a version, I would change a contract version as well. But it would be a way to very quickly be able to analyze and scan what has changed. Okay, so you can
Yeah, like a diff, yeah, to identify what exactly changed in between versions.
yeah. And it's the idea is also to not have to rely on an external tool to be able to do it. More like okay, I can see it directly. Okay, so as you can see, I'm reflecting Andrew's, and that would be optional. Okay, the thing is, it's not going to be for every field you've got to specify the version.
Yeah, I mean, I think of the corollary with this is like per method versioning in an open API spec. And the capability is there, but I'm only aware of like a handful of places that use it. And those places that I've heard of have often had to walk it back. So if this gets to the point of being mature enough and we have a working model, I mean, glad to consider it as long as it's sort of one of those options, but certainly not sort of core path. But I just don't think it's mature.
I think you know, as I see the votes which are not super positive, I I see that what we could be doing is it's easy to add to a 3.1, for example. Okay, or if we want to do that, and it's probably going to add some some clarity at that point as well. Okay, so I'm not giving up on it.
My point here is that it feels like this is the 1% case, and for that, an extension would be fine. Like an extension could also be very well defined, and you can use it. Yeah, that's basically my perspective here.
The thing is that since we added this very just short while ago, yeah, I think the usage, especially here for us at here at Needle, is not fully clear now. I'm sure you will see the benefit once we worked out some examples. But understand regarding the roadmap, I would say I also got the feeling for version 3.0, it may be too early. But let's work that out, yeah, and we will give you some examples and some of the intended cases, yeah. Yeah. Intentionally don't want to use Git, but this is I don't want to open the discussion here, yeah. But you will see.
I think you know, Simon, the thing is, you said it's a 1%, but I'd rather do it for the 1% that pays and for the 99% that doesn't pay, that don't pay. So I'm a little bit of a bitch there. I'm following the business and the money. So, but no, but seriously, the thing is, yeah, let's we're putting on hold, okay, and we'll see for a 3.1 or something, and but Yeah. Okay. We're voting for version 3 there. External and internal references. I added this one. I'm sorry I didn't describe it that much. What I would like to see with external and internal references is like, how do we reference a value from another data contract? Okay. I don't know yet how to do it but you know that data contracts can be pretty verbose in a way. And how can I reuse a description? It doesn't mean that imagine this scenario. You've got data contract 1, you've got data contract 2. Data contract 2 is a new version of data contract 1, okay? But you want to be able to reuse some of to link to something, okay? Or you've got your description, or if you're thinking about lineage, or you've got different data contracts, you want to be able to reuse some values. And that think about just how we format it in the data contract. Let's not think about how we render it to the user, okay? When the user is seeing the data contract, he's going to see the real values, okay? Or is not going to see a link to another data contract, and it's going to be a mess to read. But inside the data contract, it's going to that's the idea. Yes, Todd.
So just for everybody who wasn't on working group yesterday, there was a pretty clear example of this with data quality, where there's a library of external quality checks. So like your count number or your not null stanza is defined in a library, and we link to that. So that was, I think, a pretty clear example of where we would potentially want to reference. So.
Yeah.
Is this in scope of data contracts alone, or do we envision to also be able to reference external schema definitions, like for instance, Kafka schemas in an external registry?
That you can already do it with authoritative definition. When you use your authoritative definitions, you can point to anything else, okay, and say, hey, my reference is this URL. Okay? Or it could be Colibra for business definition, or it could be implementations through GitHub or whatever. You can already do that.
This isn't meant to replace, like, to have one generic reference mechanism. This is separate from the existing, or
we've got to still dig into that. Okay, so I think if I'm not mistaken, Simon and Johan, you're already doing that in your data contract, right?
Yeah, we kind of use a $ref mechanism from JSON schema, kind of similar. So we do point to $ref, and then we have a JSON reference, like the hashtag slash schema slash table 1 slash column 2.
So it might not be super easy or super readable, but remember that's something that the tooling will have to take care of, okay? But
yes and no. Let me just add, as we introduced this $ref reference quite a while ago, we made the decision to not use arrays, for example, for defining the fields, but using key value arguments, so that you have a way to define the path to a specific part of your YAML document. Right? So with arrays, this would be more complex to identify which column, for example, which table you want to address to. So keep that in mind if you're thinking about references and how you want to refer to a specific part.
So, Jean-Georges, is the spirit of this to be used specifically for kind of like the use case example that you gave, which is, to me, sounds more like the life cycle or superseding prior versions of a data contract? Is it really meant for referencing data contracts specifically, or is it more generic, like the example that Todd gave? Because they're both useful, like, you know, the example you gave and the example Todd gave, but in my mind, they're two different things. Like yours speaks more to kind of like superseding versions and the ease of doing that.
So it's all a bit both of them, okay? In a way, what it's really to so there's different things you want to be able to reference. Okay, let's imagine you've got one data contract and you have already defined all your data quality rules, for example, and then you can reference them. Okay, you can reference the data quality rules that you've been applying to this field, for example. Okay, or the description or the SLAs. Okay, so if you it means that you can have a lighter version of the next one because you're going to reference different things. So is it going to be field by field or section by section or things like that? That's still a lot of work, okay? And the thing is, we might not be able to finish that for version 3. And I don't want that to be a blocker for version 3, but I really want to, I really think it's going to be very useful as we tackle more and more life cycle issues with the data contracts. Does that clarify?
It does. I definitely think I'd love to work on this because I think there's obviously there's a relationship there with information lifecycle, which is near and dear to my heart, and I think this could be an interesting mechanism to help build that into the long-term roadmap of data contracts. So yeah, definitely useful, but like you said, I think, you know, there's some conceptual things that have to be ironed out.
Yeah.
So if we're voting for this, I mean, I'd like to see it done. Do we think that this is going to be done in the next month and a half? Because that's, you know, I mean, we were targeting June for a 3.0 release, right? For me, it's a question of, is it 3.0 or 3.1? I think that the concept needs to be done, but just timeliness.
It could be a stretch goal for 3.1 or for 3.0 and a release in 3.1. I don't see that. To be really honest, the thing is, I don't see yet how to implement it. I've seen the $ref reference that Johan mentioned. I don't know if this is a mechanism we're going to use or not. And so it's worth looking into it, and then we could eventually say, hey guys, I don't want this to block 3.0. Okay, that's my that's my
I think that's exactly where I am. So I would put I'm the same vote here as Martin, is definitely for 3.1. I think if we can make it earlier, better, but I wouldn't put it as blocker for 3.0.
Okay, we have 1 minute left. Time warning.
Yeah, shit. Okay.
And I have to leave. So
yeah. Okay, so 10 very quickly. The 10 is okay. Do we want to first, most important thing besides Simon, can anyone stay a few minutes more, or sorry guys. Okay, so well, we can finalize the vote after if there's a problem, but and Simon, I'm happy if you share your votes later like Andrew did. Okay, so okay, sorry. The idea of this open data product standard is to, we always said that we're not going to limit our, Bitol is not only about data control, and it's also about the rest of it. Okay, so data products, and it's all the standards that comes with modern data engineering. And I think the next one we can tackle is open data product standard. I've already discussed with other people about other ones that could be coming. And like, for example, open data mesh standard, or to be or the way we could exchange data between the different components, etc. So anyway, this is one thing. Okay, there's nothing much in there. It doesn't have, it's not linked to ODCS 3, but it will capitalize from ODCS 3. Okay, so I think that's where we where we are on this one. I started working on it already. Did not report my work there. It can be also for after a 3 a 3.0 version, but I wouldn't like to wait for too long after. Okay, so just to see that we're a multiple standard organization as well. So, all right, any questions, comments? I think Penelope should vote.
Did you just take my vote away? She only votes no, by the way.
Can she be bribed?
See?
Okay, I get it.
I'm in favor of this conceptually. I just don't think it should be a blocker for 3.
Yeah, we could say it's a 3 for a 3.1 or something. I just don't want to wait for ages for it. Okay, so I see also the industry. I see a pressure from the industry for that, because I see a lot of people trying to achieve this kind of standard, and it's not like we're competing with them, but I also don't want to I don't want to wait for a potential standard to, and then we have to compete with a standard, blah blah blah, etc. Okay, so that was also one of the motivation. And it's, as you said, it's yeah, we dropped a few people, so I guess okay, that's where we are. And the last one, at least Dirk, you added some things compared to the two I added. So
yeah, a couple of things, not a lot, because it hasn't been thought through very well. But I thought it would be pretty low-hanging fruit to add lineage information to data contracts, from the assumption that this would mainly be references upstream, so data contracts referencing the upstream data products and contracts it depends on, to feed lineage information. I think it would be nice to have, but then again, I think in practice, just adding these references would already bring valuable information. So I'm not sure this requires a bit of work, whether there are any thoughts, concerns, questions.
I was just
I
going to
think-
say real quick, in my mind, this is very much linked to number 9, right? Because if we're talking about external references in the sense that in the superseding version use case, which is one that Zenzer gave initially, this is, you know, these two are directly related. So again, I would be interested in digging into this further and seeing how we can either merge them into one RFC or work out the details. I think there's definitely a lot of value in understanding the genesis, right? The lineage of how a version of a contract came to be, or the existing data contract or data product, whatever it is. So I definitely think there's value there, but I just think there's not enough meat on the bones for me to vote yay or nay on this, other than saying it's a great idea, let's explore.
I think I love the idea of that, and I think it could be bringing value that we also don't have yet. Okay? So I vote favorably for that, but maybe Dirk, as you work on it, there's two considerations. Maybe it's not going to be for 3.0. It could be for 3.1 as
Yeah,
well.
which is fine, sure.
Which just means that we've got to think, maybe if you've got already some ideas of how you want to represent it, then we can have the idea as a representation of that, to see that it's not going to be a breaking change, but just an additional feature. So that would be one. And look at what, I don't know if you've already looked at what Open Lineage has been doing.
Yeah, I did. Sorry to just shortcut this, but I really need to go. I've got a back-to-back meeting which I need to attend. But I think LA Fair action, and in any case, I'll follow up and add more details and meat on the bone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, that's how we finished it. I think we had a great session. Sorry it's ran a little long. Thanks everybody for joining on voting, and I'm going to summarize all these things, and yeah, and I think it's as Ilyef is doing. Bravo to us. Okay, so have a great rest of your day, and it's been exciting, and the journey continues. All right, awesome. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Right.